Okay. All right, I think we have our first guest on the line. Do we have John Payne?
Maybe we should answer
Almost.
the phone first.
We're almost there. We're almost there. We have our first guest. Do we have John Payne on the line?
Yes, this is John.
All right, John. Good to talk to you again, man. It's Waxy. So,
Yeah, how's it going?
good. So, a little background for the folks out there. Like I was just talking about, Missouri is looking legal. We're looking at adult use right down the barrel. It's on its way. It's just right around the corner. And we are seeing the petitions out there for this particular initiative. So we wanted to have John on, and a little background there. Out here in Rollo, when we decriminalized cannabis, John was one of the voices, one of the folks I went to and said, John, what am I looking at here? What's this look like? What's the fight for decrim look like? And I got a lot of advice back then, and I'm grateful for that, for the words you gave me back then. And I'm grateful for the interview we're going to do now. So, John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here.
Great. So first thing I think I'd like to do is give my listeners an overview of what your initiative looks like, sounds like, the bits and pieces, and let's give them some education on what they're looking at there.
Sure. So this is the Legal Missouri 2022 initiative to legalize the adult use of marijuana across the state of Missouri. So that means that it would be legal for adults 21 years of age and older to possess, use, purchase, and cultivate marijuana for their personally, and also another big component, I think a vital component, is that it would automatically expunge the records for all nonviolent marijuana offenses that do not involve either driving under the influence or sales to a minor. So that's going to wipe the record clean for tens of thousands of people with those sorts of records. And then also, of course, it's going to provide huge economic opportunities for the state, probably, a $1 billion industry that'll have at least about $50 million for new state tax revenues, and also about $15 million for local tax revenues. And at the state level, we put that money to a few different things. One is actually paying for those expungements. So, when we say it's going to be automatic, in a lot of other states, people have to fill out a form, and they have to often have an attorney to help them with that, file that with the courts, and that costs money. And so what we said is we're going to take some of the tax revenue and use that to actually pay to process that paperwork without those people having to do anything at all. And so that's a big help right there. And then the rest of it.
With those expungements, or I can ask questions at the end if you'd like, but with those expungements, I know does that cover, so you said nonviolent, go give that one to me again, all nonviolent.
And DWI.
All nonviolent marijuana offenses, unless it involves driving under the influence or sales to a minor.
Gotcha.
Okay, so does that with any weights and measures? Like any, is that...
So,
go ahead.
Yes, all of them will be automatically expunged. Some of them will be automatically expunged faster. So anything that is a misdemeanor, Class D felony, or Class C felony of 3 pounds or under, that's expunged, right off the bat, regardless of whether the person is serving a sentence or not. That happens immediately. Now, for any of the larger felonies, Class A or Class B, that are over 3 pounds, then those are expunged, but the sentence has to be completed, so that they are still automatically expunged.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead then with the rest. I apologize.
Yeah. So we're just talking about the tax money for where that goes at the state level. So after the expungements are paid for, and that'll probably be a pretty big expense, especially in the first year, but then that'll really taper off. And from there, there are 3 different places that the money goes to. It goes to veterans health care and support for the Missouri Veterans, the Missouri Veterans Commission. Then another third goes to drug abuse and prevention treatment services. And then finally, a third of it goes to the state's public defender program, which is badly underfunded, has been for a long, long time. And, we think that this is part of this is a broad criminal justice reform proposal, and there's a lot of times that the justice system works pretty well in this country if both sides have adequate resources, but that's usually not the case. Usually,
Correct.
The prosecutor has way more resources and a person is not able to get a good defense unless they have a lot of money.
Right.
And so we're trying to even the playing field a little bit there
Very
and make
cool.
sure people aren't convicted of things that they didn't do or overcharged for some minor offense.
So basically, that right there, that third is going to help indigent folks indigent folks that need help with money be able to afford their attorneys and be able to not have to come out of pocket for that. In the
That's
criminal justice
correct.
system. Very cool.
So from a patient perspective, if I'm a medical patient in the state of Missouri, do I want adult use?
Yeah, I think obviously details are important, but we did some things that I think are going to really improve things for patients in the state. We added in a number of protections, for instance, employee protections. So right now, and this is something that honestly we probably would have put in the medical proposal if we knew how much we were going to win by. But we thought it was politically sensitive at the time, but we went in and put in some protections that say that if you're using medical marijuana as a patient with a card, you cannot be fired from your job just for that. Not using it on during work hours, but in your off time, provided you're not impaired or doing something that could cause danger on the job, then you're protected from being fired just because you have a medical marijuana card or just because you test positive for marijuana. Because as we know, the THC metabolites can stay in your system long after the effects have worn off. We don't want people to lose their jobs over that. We also make the medical marijuana cards last a lot longer. So now, currently, you have to go and get those renewed every 3 years. Every year. And what we're going to do is make that renewal only once every 3 years. So that's going to save people on those, renewal fees and also on the fees for certifications.
And does that state fee stay the same, or does that triple? We pay $75. How's that work?
No, it stays the same. So it's only $25, and part of that is because we're going to have so much more new tax revenue coming in on the adult use side that we don't to regulate the program. We don't need to rely as much on the taxes and the fees on the medical marijuana side.
Very good.
Okay, so from a patient's perspective, again, I'm a medical patient in the state of Missouri. I agree. So I want adult use. Can I get a medical recommendation from somebody other than a doctor?
Yeah, so currently you have to go to an MD or a DO, osteopath, someone who is licensed as a physician in the state. But we're also going to open this up to nurse practitioners under this proposal. And kind of our reasoning for that is that nurse practitioners are able to prescribe most medications in the state. So we said, why not include them as people who can certify patients for the medical marijuana program.
So do you think that that's going to help increase the card count there, the patient count, get more access?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's also going to drive the cost of the certifications down because you're going to have more people that are able to provide that service. And so, I think this is going to encourage more people to get into the program.
Okay, so myself, I'm a licensed caregiver or a licensed cultivator, and I also really believe in our caregiver program in Missouri. In fact, some of the uniqueness to it are the portions that I enjoy. Am I going to be able to see that by any chance expand? And I would love to know if there's going to be any decrease or anything like that with it as well. But I'd love to see an expansion with our ability to homegrown caregive.
Yeah, so we double the number of people that any caregiver can care for. So, that allows them to go from, I think it's currently you can only be a caregiver for up to 3 people. And under this, they would now be able to be a caregiver for up to 6 people and grow more plants, which allows them to, kind of scale the operation a little bit more and, have some economy of scale there.
And basically same licensing, nothing changes in that realm either.
That's correct, yeah.
Well, I like that.
So will this open up and kind of release the caps that are on the dispensaries and cultivation centers and different things like that? With the recreational plan coming into fruition?
So it will increase the number of licenses in a pretty substantial way. It doesn't completely, open it up, although the department still retains the ability to add more licenses. And I do want to mention, the department has actually added more licenses than the current minimums. There's actually, been about 10 new dispensaries that are above and beyond what the minimum requires, and I think the department's going to continue to add more there. I think they're not as willing to increase on the cultivation licenses from what the state mandated minimum is, but on dispensaries, I think they're showing a willingness to expand those numbers somewhat. But the adult use proposal would add a minimum of 144 new licenses that are really targeted to people that are may have a harder time getting into the current medical marijuana market, people who are come from low-income areas or places that have a disproportionately high rate of marijuana arrests and convictions, that sort of thing. Can
you dig into that a little bit for us, a little deeper? In what ways it does that?
In what ways it tries to make sure that those people are getting the access to those licenses?
Correct. I'd like to know how it's going to. You said that those licenses, some of them are to be geared more towards helping out, let's say, people that weren't able to get to those licenses before. I'd like to know what pathway that looks like there.
Yeah, so the amendment lays out a number of criteria, and any of these licenses have to be at least majority owned by somebody who meets one of those criteria.
Right.
I don't know that I'll get all of them correct, but if you come from a zip code where there's a disproportionately high enforcement rate for marijuana arrests and convictions, if it's a zip code that has a high poverty rate, if you have made less than a certain threshold of income over the last 10, or I think it's 3 of the last 10 years, and then I think if you come from a school district if you graduated from a school that was unaccredited at the time of your graduation, all those are factors that allow you to enter into a lottery in order to win one of these licenses. And so we got rid of the scored application process on these licenses. I think there's pretty broad agreement that the state did not, the company that the state hired to do the scoring did not do a consistent job on the medical marijuana licensing. So we said, there's a lottery system. It's very fair. Obviously some people will win and some people will lose, but it's random. And it will allow these people that are coming from these backgrounds that have been harmed by the prohibition of marijuana to gain some equity in the system.
Okay. All right. So I also saw on there that that veterans, disabled veterans, would have an ability to have licensing capability.
Yep, that's right. That's the one I forgot there. But yeah, service-disabled veterans are another category that are allowed to apply.
Yep, I represent those people, so I wanted to make sure I saw that language in there the right way. All right, so let's call it this way. So if I'm great at growing and I'm caregiving for some folks and I want to go after a license myself. Now, a lot of states have craft cannabis laws, small batch laws, small biz laws. Are you guys looking at anything like that in this language?
Yeah, so the cultivation licenses and those 144 licenses, actually it's not just cultivation, it's a combined cultivation and manufacturing license. And that is 2/3 of all those licenses will be that combination. And that allows you to grow up to 250 plants and manufacture product from that license in whatever way you want, and then sell to the dispensaries.
Okay, and what's the access to those licenses look like? Because that sounds pretty amazing. If I'm somebody that makes wonderful edibles, grows great plants, and I want to get like a great tincture out, things like that, and be able to get those on shelves at dispensaries, what's that pathway to access for that license look like?
So you mean how to win that license?
Exactly.
So basically, as long as you qualify, as long as you are majority owned by someone who or a group of people that meet one of those criteria, then you can submit an application fee, and it's very low. I think it's like $1,500, so pretty minimal application fee there. And if you don't win it, it is refundable. So those go into the lottery, and then if you win the license, that $1,500 goes towards your licensing fee for the first year. So it is not something where you're going to spend a bunch of money and then not get anything. You may have to put some money up to enter into it, but that money comes back to you if you don't win.
So if I win one of these licenses and I can grow 250 plants, as long as I go through the normal chain of command of getting a COA through a licensed lab, I'll be able to move product in through the dispensaries?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let's go back then. If I don't win one of these licenses, but yet I want to grow, and can I have that test? If I've got a caregiver's license, can I move product into the normal dispensary?
No, you would. You'd still have to grow strictly for your patients, but you could still have 6 patients, and you could charge them some fee for your labor and that sort of thing, but you wouldn't be able to sell it commercially.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, the small batch licenses, what are you guys calling those in your language?
Micro licenses.
So your micro licenses, are they available only to individuals like we've been talking about, or are your micro licenses available to larger companies as well?
So they're only available to the people that we're talking about, and in fact, if you have any ownership in a current medical marijuana license, you cannot own any part of those micro licenses. So, kind of the idea is to make sure that they don't get, because what you see in a lot of states is, someone will, the people that are in the existing licenses will kind of find somebody that meets the criteria, and that way they can come in and take control of it. But we basically forbid that from happening. If you want to be in the micro license market, you can't be somebody that is already in the existing medical marijuana market.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's say this petition is out right now. So we're looking at this happening next year. If your group finds success here with the voters and with the initiative and the path and all that, let's say that it passes. What's the implementation time frame? What's your stand up look like? What's that?
So it gets implemented very quickly. So the actual legalization of possession and use and individual cultivation, that happens 30 days after the vote, on the effective date. And then the existing medical marijuana facilities can apply to convert their licenses to what we call comprehensive licenses, and they can do that 30 days after the vote, and the state has to act on that within 30 days. And then the state has to have their first lottery for the micro licenses that summer, basically. I believe it's in August of that year, of August of 2023. So they'll be awarding those new licenses within about 10 months of the election.
Okay. So when is the election?
So it would be November of 2022, and we have to turn our signatures in by May 8th, which is 6 months prior to the November election.
And how are you doing on a signature standpoint? What can we do to get the word out? How can people sign it?
Yeah, so we have, I think currently we have about 80 locations up on our map on our website, legalmo22.com, of signing locations across the state, and we're adding more all the time. I think we'll be over 100 by the end of the year. And then we're also, just this week, we are sending our first payment to our paid signature collection company, which is Fieldworks. It's the same group that we used on the medical marijuana campaign back in 2018. And they're going to be out, covering the state with people at libraries, DMVs, post offices, you name it, kind of places during the winter and spring next year. And they will be gathering probably about 2/3 of our signatures will come that way, and another third will come from the signing locations and volunteers. But yeah, if people want to find a place close to them to sign, they can go to legalmo22.com, and we're adding locations all the time. So if they go there and they don't see one in their area, sit tight, check back in a week or two, and we should have something coming along soon.
Awesome. Okay, I want to ask a couple questions then before we let you go. Tim kind of touched on it earlier. A lot of patients kind of wonder, with our medical rollout being the way that it was, and like you just admitted earlier, with a little bit of the scoring being unfair, some issues there. Tim asked the question, and it dawned on me that it was a very, very valid question. Is Missouri, are Missourians prepared for adult use? And the question, in my mind, I'm going to frame it a little bit different. Is this a correction of our prior laws?
I mean, I'll certainly say that to some degree a correction. I mean, there are definitely things that, when you implement a big law and it starts to come into operation, you look back and you say, hey, I wish we would have written it a little differently. But that said, I think by and large, this has been a very, very good system. And I think the proof is pretty easy to find in that there's 160,000 patients in our system currently, and that's a really large number. There's I think the only state that has grown faster in terms of patient numbers as a percentage of the population is Oklahoma, and I know people like to point to that, but that is kind of an outlier in a lot of ways in how many patients they have. That we have about we're coming up on 3% of our population as patients in the system, and that was the state of Missouri when they did their study said that it would be I think less than 0.5% through the first 3 years. We totally blew those projections out of the water, and there's only a few states that have higher patient percentages than we do, and almost all of them are states that have been had medical marijuana systems for over a decade. California, New Mexico, Montana. All those states have had very long-standing medical marijuana systems. So we've had some of the best growth in our patient population of any state. So, yeah, we're certainly correcting some things that after we got into it, we said, hey, that didn't work so well, or this needs to be changed a little bit. But by and large, I think that this has been a good system. And it is a system that the people of Missouri do like. We've done polling on this, and we have basically the same level of support, a little bit higher for the medical marijuana system than the 2/3 of Missourians who voted for this program 3 years ago, and so they are ready to vote for adult use legalization. We think we have more than 60% support for this proposal currently, so we're feeling very confident about it.
How many signatures are you needing to have by May?
So we have to get 170,000 plus valid signatures in order to get this on the ballot, spread out over 6 of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. And really, when I say 170,000 valid, that we're going to have like 325, 330,000 signatures in total, because the signatures can be invalidated for a number of reasons. Biggest one, people just aren't registered to vote.
Whole pages at a time, yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes they just sign illegibly or what have you. But we've been through this process before and know what it takes to get it done. And we're confident that we'll be able to collect all those.
Okay, I got one more for you. Something that you and I talked about a little bit earlier, John. State-to-state commerce. I do believe that the United States is on a path to full adult use, full legalization from coast to coast and beyond. I think that only a couple of our states are being progressive enough right now to be able to ensure that medicine is shared between states to satisfy the needs of other states and to be able to spread those brands and those brand awareness and particular plants and those things. Now, Missouri doesn't participate in state-to-state commerce. It doesn't look like your bill handles that at all. But I see that and reciprocal cards as a very clear path for Missouri. Are you guys thinking of that in the future?
So we do address it in the amendment, and we do also allow for reciprocal cards, that is one thing that we wish we would have done in the original 2018 amendment. But with regards to crossing borders, it is going to happen eventually. I think that's clear, but it's just a matter of basically the position we take in the amendment is once the federal government takes the position that this is legal, it is allowed to cross state lines in a very unambiguous way. Then that's what will allow it to happen in the state of Missouri. But it's kind of a delicate situation. It's still illegal federally, and we don't want to invite in the feds basically because we're encouraging something to cross state lines, because that's still part of the federal guidance on this is that they'll stay out of your state program provided it's not moving across state lines. So we want to be cognizant of that. But yeah, it does acknowledge that once the federal government comes out and says, here's the program, here's the regulations for how it can cross state lines, then it will be allowed.
All right, and you did say reciprocal cards are in that language?
Yes.
Okay, great. Anything about lodging licenses in your language?
So we don't directly address lodging. I think that we do. I mean, it can be addressed, but essentially we talk about public consumption possibilities, and essentially that is left to the local governments to regulate. That's what we decided on there. I think that's going to be something that is going to be different depending on what part of the state you're in, but it does open up the possibility for say, Rolla or St. Louis or Columbia or what have you, to say, hey, this is something we want to allow in our area, and they can pass something on the local level, and that would allow it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. John Payne from Legal Missouri 2022. John, I'd love to have you back in the February timeframe, see where we're at with signatures, and then again, when things look like they're in a different path.
One last thing,
Yeah.
John, is there a website that people can go to kind of keep track and see what the signature count is and help push it?
Yeah, so you can go to legalmo22.com, and we'll probably start posting signature totals here, next month. Like I said, we just got our paid signature collection firm on, and they do all the validation and quality control and everything, so we'll be able to start reporting totals in the near future, and then people can also follow our social media on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
All right.
good.
Well, let us know what we can do down here for you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you,
Appreciate it.
John. Catch you next time, buddy. All right, so guys,
Yep.
that was a
Yes.
wonderful conversation. You guys meditate on that. We're going to bring you a little Christmas music like we promised you, and we'll get back with you guys just a little bit. You're listening to Waxy Brown's Flower Power Hour on KKID 92.9 Raleigh, Salem.